Hi, it's Sylvester, and I wanted to just talk about how proud I am of myself. I know that's pretty self indulgent. I'm just patting myself on the back, but I do think it's important to celebrate small victories and to celebrate growth and improvement. And I have noticed a lot of improvement in my ability to control my anger. You see, I've had anger issues for a long time now, especially in my early to mid 20s. I was very, very angry about everything all the time, and it was obviously very destructive. It was very bad for my relationships. It was just not a good thing to be extremely angry all the time, obviously. And it's not fun to be angry. Like it's not something I enjoyed being. It was just I had a lot of anger and I didn't know what to do with it. And the thing is, I am a very, very anxious person, and oftentimes how I respond to anxiety is with anger. And I get very, very easily overstimulated, very easily overwhelmed. And so when small things would go wrong in my life, I would respond with a disproportionate amounts of anger. Like the things that triggered my anger were often just trivialities, things that didn't really matter, just small things going wrong. I was just so overwhelmed by my emotions, so overwhelmed by life in general, that if any tiny thing went wrong in my life, it would cause me to become unreasonably angry. And so a couple things happened last week that are, again, trivialities, things that don't really matter in the grand scheme of things. But if these things had happened a few years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I would have responded with so much anger. And I was able to control my anger, and I was able to not respond with anger. And I feel like that is a huge improvement for me, and I really do think that I have come a long way, and I do think it's important to acknowledge that, because if I don't pat myself on the back, who's going to pat me on the back? You know what I mean? You got to be your own biggest fan sometimes. So the things that happened, again, are things that probably wouldn't cause the average person to become unreasonably angry. They are, again, trivialities, small things. But in the moment, small things can feel like very big things. In the moment, sometimes little things going wrong in life, like I said, you would have in the past caused me to become unreasonably angry. So the first thing that happened last week that would have in the past caused me to become very angry was that I had to print a couple documents at the public library. And so I put the documents on a little USB thumb drive and I walked down to the library, and the printer wouldn't recognize my USB thumb drive. I put it in the computer so I could print it from the computer, and the computer wouldn't recognize my thumb drive. So I walked home, put the documents on a hard drive, took that to the library, and once again, the printer wouldn't recognize it, and neither would the computer. So then I had to walk home again and email the documents to myself, and then walk back down to the library and access my email on one of the library computers and then print it that way, which again is an inconvenience. It's, to have to go to the library 3 separate times when I expected to just go there one time. Again, it's not really that big of a deal. In the grand scheme of life, that's really a small inconvenience. But as I said, in the past, something like that would have driven me to extreme anger. I would have been so pissed off by the third time that I went back to the library. I would have been fuming. If anyone had tried to talk to me, I probably would have been snippy and maybe rude. I might have said some choice words to the people working at the library, because the second time I went to the library, I asked them if they could help me, and they couldn't figure out what was wrong. They said that sometimes the printer doesn't recognize people's external drives, and they said this is a thing that happens sometimes. And so again, in the past, I probably would have been kind of rude to these people. I probably would have been angry with them, even though it was not in any way their fault. And I probably would have been very, very angry if this had happened even just a couple years ago. So again, I'm very proud of myself. I was irked I was a little irritated by the third time that I had to go back to the library because I had stuff to do that day. Like it was an inconvenience. It was definitely an inconvenience, and I was a little bit irritated by the third time that I had to return to the library. But again, I handled the situation way, way, way better than I would have in the past. The second thing that happened that would have caused me to become extremely angry in the past was that I got a new debit card, and I went to go activate it by making a purchase, and it wouldn't work. It was declined. So I went home, called my bank, and they said that I had to change my PIN. So I had to bike down to the nearest bank because I don't live very close. There are two banks that are somewhat near me. One is like a 20-minute walk, but it closes at like 5, and it was after 5 at this point. And the other bank is like a 40-minute walk, but it's like a 20-minute bike ride. So I rode my bike down to this ATM, and I put in a new PIN, and then I tried to use my new card, and it still wouldn't work. So I had to bike home. I called the bank again. They said, "Oh, sorry, there's a problem on our end," and they fixed it. So once again, I went to go use my debit card, my new debit card, and it wouldn't let me make a purchase because I had made too many attempts to use it, and I had gotten locked out. And so I had to go back home, call my bank again, and have them reset my PIN, which meant I had to go back down to the bank to reset my PIN. And so I didn't feel like biking down to the bank that I had just gone to, so I waited until the next day and walked to the other bank and put in my new PIN, and then finally my debit card was working. And so, again, this sounds like just an inconvenience. Most people would probably be mildly annoyed that something like that happened, but a few years ago, I would have been so angry. I probably would have made 5 YouTube videos just ranting about it, and I probably would have been just unreasonably angry about this. And I handled it very, very well. I was annoyed. I was a little irritated, like it was not my favorite thing to go through, but it was overall pretty much, it was fine. I handled it very, very well compared to how I would have used to. By the second time that I called my bank, if this was a few years ago, I probably would have been, again, very rude to the person on the phone. I probably would have been like, I've tried to reset my PIN and my card's still not working and blah, 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 blah. I probably would have been so mad at them, even though, again, it wasn't their fault. And, yeah, I handled the situation very, very well, and I am quite proud of myself. There is a support group that I've been going to for about a year now at this point, and actually over a year at this point. And one of the coping strategies that I've learned through this support group is that comfort is a want, not a need. So, like, when I was biking down to the bank to go reset my PIN because my card wasn't working, I was uncomfortable, I was sweaty, it was hot, there were a lot of bugs out, and so I was biking, and like a ton of bugs were just smacking me in the face, which was very uncomfortable, and I was annoyed because my card wasn't working, and I was anxious because I was scared that maybe I wasn't going to get the card to work at all, and I was anxious that maybe resetting my PIN wasn't going to work, and so like I was just uncomfortable. And again, something we learned in the support group is that comfort is a want, not a need, and you can function while being uncomfortable. And if you bear discomfort, if you have the will to bear discomfort, comfort will eventually come. So I was just biking, annoyed and anxious, and just saying to myself over and over and over again, comfort is a want, not a need. Comfort is a want, not a need. Comfort is a want, not a need. And it was an uncomfortable situation, but I got it figured out. I got it handled. Everything, the situation was resolved, and I didn't fly off the handles. I didn't become excessively angry, and I'm very grateful for that, and I'm very proud of myself for that, and I'm very happy that, I mean, I can't take all the credit. A lot of it is because of the medication that I'm on. My medication really, really helps with my anger, so thank you to modern medicine, and thank you to the doctors who have helped me access this medication. And it takes a whole village, and yeah, I'm proud of how far I've come, and I appreciate the progress that I've made, and I just wanted to make this video saying so. So that is all. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Stay frosty. Bye.